hit record. All right, so Dr. Penn, the crazy, the wonderful, the amazing Dr. Michael Penn, you want to talk about who you are and what your background is real quick?
Yeah, hi, I'm a professor in civil and environmental engineering. Let's see, I'm watching the chats right now, so I'm blocking. Oh, it's that picture. Okay. So without getting into a long discussion of what environmental engineering is, you can see that I'm outside. And so that's a big part of it. In that particular case, we're looking for contaminants in the mud at the bottom of Lake Mendota. And I've done several of those studies around the Midwest. I teach both civil and environmental engineering, and I love it. And I'll answer any questions you have later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we've been here. I think I've started the beginning of my quarter of a century, my 25th year at Platteville. So Mike, you have to be right there with me, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay, all right. He's gonna check, all right. All right, our third panelist is Alec. Say hi, Alec.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alec. I'm a sophomore mechanical engineering student at UW-Platteville. This is halfway through my fourth semester. On campus, I'm involved in a number of student organizations, as well as working as a tour guide and presenter in meetings like this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alec. So the way I like to start this out is we're going to ask the panelists 2 questions, and then I'm going to show you some really great videos, and then we'll pause for questions, right? That kind of thing. So, and we might try to engage you some more in the chat. So hang in there. And if you have a burning question, right, that you want to ask, go ahead, put it in the chat, and Nicole will keep feeding them to us, and we'll go from there, okay? So the first question is, why did you choose UW-Platteville? All right. So Johanna, maybe you could do just a brief introduction, and why did you choose UW-Platteville?
Sure. So yeah, again, I'm Johanna Meister, design engineer at Oshkosh Corporation, graduate of UW-Platteville in May of 2020. I'm originally from Darlington, Wisconsin, which for those of you that don't know the area is actually very close to Platteville. So I grew up in the area, and I actually was fortunate enough in middle school and high school to be able to take part in UW-Platteville's outreach programs for exploring engineering students. So different women in STEM events and the engineering expo that was on campus. I got to go to those different things and really explore it before I even toured any type of college. So that was a really good foot in the door. I had good experience, and those programs were really well led and helped develop and cultivate that interest in engineering. Toured lots of different campuses for engineering and came back to UW-Platteville for the feel of the campus. It felt like home when I stepped on campus. I got to know small class sizes mean I got to know my professors a lot more well than I would have on a larger campus. And it's a really hands-on approach to how we do learning. A lot of my classes, I can't think of hardly any engineering class that I had that didn't have a lab component to it. So we learned the material, and then we got to actually put it into action, which was really awesome. And I really liked that aspect when I was looking at colleges. So also being a smaller school, you got to do lots of different explore your interests outside of engineering. So one of my passions is running. So I actually got to be in varsity athletics on campus, doing cross country and track and field. And that was really important to me. Some of my best friends came out of cross country and track and field. And so it happens a lot of, especially on the women's team, we had actually a good group of engineers. So it was kind of fun to be able to do running and pursue our passions as well that we all kind of shared. So with that, being a smaller school, you get to really, if you want to, I know plenty of people in my classes that got to do music and engineering, or if they want to do arts and engineering, or, this, that, and the other thing. Like, if you want to do it, Platteville will make it happen if you want to incorporate that to engineering, which I really liked. So yeah, that's why I chose Platteville. Really enjoyed it. Great experience.
Johanna, thank you. You did such a nice job talking about be an engineer, be a computer scientist, and right, like specialize your education and your skills. to your interests. And Johanna will be shy about this, but Johanna, she wasn't just on the track and field team, right? Like she was Scholar Athlete of the Year her senior year, and like really did amazing things as an athlete and an engineer. So so proud of her. So, and I'm so grateful that she's here tonight to share her experience with you. So Dr. Penn, how about you? Do you remember why you chose UW-Platteville?
I do. So that guy was at a conference and they ran out of coffee at a break. So I was standing in line waiting for coffee, which I hate, by the way, but it was caffeine, so it was fine. And the person standing in front of me, I started talking to, and that person was a professor here at Platteville. And I was happy where I was at the time, which was in Pennsylvania, and I had really I wasn't looking for a job, but they had just started the environmental engineering program here. And we kept talking and we kept talking and we kept talking. And he said, you know, you should apply. And I'm originally from Michigan, so I did have a strong pull to the Great Lakes and the Midwest. So I was like, well, what the heck? And I came here and I interviewed, and I absolutely knew at the end of that day, not only that this is where I wanted to be, but that I was going to be here. And I'm still here.
Yeah.
And I don't look like this anymore, as you can tell.
So Mike, could you just talk a little bit, how did you know, like what drew you and what sort, yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Two things I always come back to are the culture here and the people here. And those are interdependent, but right. Mm-hmm. The culture is students are number one, and your success is why I'm here. And number two is, you hear this from a lot of people when they move here, they're just like, wow, everybody is just like helpful and nice. Like what's in the water in Platteville? I'm not making this is not a sales pitch. I say this from the bottom of my heart. Some of my best friends many of my best friends are my colleagues in my department. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my really good friends are former students. Mm-hmm. I've gone to a lot of weddings of students.
That's great. Thank you, Mike. Alec, how about you? Since you're the current student, right? You're the one managing all the homework and stuff like that on campus. Why did you choose?
Well, primarily I was in high school. I was involved in a lot of organizations like First Tech Challenge, which is, if you're not familiar, it's a robotics competition that kind of competes internationally. And I really wanted to do something similar to that. So I was looking at different engineering programs. And when I visited UW-Platteville, it really just felt right when I got here. I really gelled with the size of the campus, the layout of the campus, and the location of the campus. And then also, since I've been here, I've been really impressed with how accessible faculty are. If you have a question, anybody is always willing to help you. You're not going to be turned away by anybody. So that's really important to me as well. And then finally, I applied for the Chancellor Scholarship kind of on a whim, but I was fortunate enough to be offered that scholarship as well. So that's another big reason I'm here.
Well, and I know why. Alec is pretty amazing. He's been helping us with our tours and doing this kind of stuff. So on a whim, I don't know, Alec, you're probably selling yourself short a little bit. You're pretty awesome to me. So
Amy, since most students probably don't know what the Chancellor Scholarship is, do you mind, Alec, just telling them what that covers?
Yeah, so the application for the next year of Chancellor Scholars closed on December 31st, but The Chancellor Scholarship is really focused on leadership and community impact. Yeah, my understanding is they look for people who had a really good sense of, you know, what's a way I can make the place that I live in better, and how can I do that while also focusing on education at the same time. So that the Chancellor Scholarship covers 8 semesters of tuition and fees. So for the next 4 semesters I'm here, I will only be paying for any room and board if I'm on campus. So
Yeah. Good, thank you. Oh, and by the way, this is Nicole, everybody. She and I are the hosts tonight. So Nicole, want to give your little spiel real quick?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Some of you, your names look familiar, so I might have already met you at a visit maybe, but I'm a regional admission advisor for Platteville. So I live in Kenosha, about 3 hours from Platteville, and recruit students on this side of the state in northeastern Illinois.
Good, awesome. Okay, well, I just want to remind you all, keep the questions coming, okay? Or you can start with the questions. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I just want to remind you to do that. This slide here is a picture of our M. We actually do shoot fireworks off the top of it. And you can see the 150, that means we celebrated our sesquicentennial in 2016. And the M is the quintessential hands-on project. In the 1930s, right, students and professors actually built this, right? It was sort of this competition with another built it. Well, okay, they blasted, they used surveying, they used whitewash, chainsaws, you name it, right? And so I like this as an example showing you all and reminding me about our hands-on approach. And I do have some math jokes unapologetically. So instead of hands-on to the nth degree, I'm going to call us hands-on to the mth degree, right? So ha ha ha. Anyway, you all probably are in some pretty hefty math classes, so you probably get it, right? Yeah, okay, good. Thanks, Reese, for giving me, I get it, Tammy. Okay, good. This is just some pictures that I'm gonna let come up on screen, but while those pictures are flying through, yep, you can see there my YouTube. I'm going to pull up a couple of videos that I want you to see. And it's going to take me a minute to do that, as long as my computer keeps cooperating. I don't know, the picture's going to keep going. Okay, here they go. Let's see here. Do you want a video about food and engineering? Or let's see, I'm having a hard time with my computer here, so bear with me. Get too many screens.
I think it depends if people have eaten dinner or not yet, Tammy.
Yeah, well, who would ever think that being a STEM professional would be related to food, right? I think this is a really interesting project. It's a senior design project, and it's called the Crispiness Project. So I'm going to pull that up. Well, you'll see it eventually if I find the other one that I want first. I will pull that up, but okay. Actually, what I'm going to do first, I'll look for the Crispiness Project while you're watching this one. But this is about our holiday toy hack, okay? And this is actually a community service project run out of our engineering physics department, all right? So to do this, I have to stop my share there. Huh, where did my hit escape? I got to do all this fandangling, so just bear with me, please, okay? So there's that. Okay, stop, pause. Hang in there with me. I want to get this on the right screen. Minimize, share. There's all this magic behind the scenes that has to happen, okay? So thanks for bearing with me. You all get it, right? We've been doing this learning collectively. Okay. I see there's some questions coming in, Nicole. All right, can you see my YouTube, everybody? And hopefully you can hear it.
I'm Hal Evanson. I'm a professor of engineering physics here at UW-Platteville. And so this is our second annual holiday toy hack. And so you can kind of see behind me, we've got about 35 or so students, which is last year we had just under 20. So we have a nice big turnout. We've had people donating this year for toys, and so we've got a lot more toys to work on. We've got requests from Iowa to Monroe to our greater area, so we've got a lot of people kind of looking forward to receiving these toys. And so what the students are doing behind me here is that they're taking a toy, like Peppa here, and most of these toys can be activated in a regular way. But not all kids are able to fire them up that way. And so what we're doing is we're adding a switch to the back, or actually a little jack. And the jack connects to kind of a standard switch. And so when you plug it in then, a child is then able to activate it with a button. And so we have buttons, and there's also different styles of buttons. Some kids use bite switches or blow switches or head tilt switches, depending on the ability of the child. And so this is really neat because we're able to kind of use our engineering and problem-solving skills and adapt a toy so that a child can interact with it. They can have control over it. Some in physical therapy, sometimes they use this to help with the child's development. And so there's just lots of uses. So that's why we're sending toys to families, to clinics, and things of this sort.
So primarily what I've been helping with this event is I've been working with Dr. Evanson to help with the fundraising, because we need to make funds so that we can pay for these toys and also pay for the tools we need to be able to hack into them and adapt them. So we did a fundraiser, and we also created a donation page. And then I also helped with the outreach to students and to the recipients of these toys. So we got about 30 student volunteers today from both education and engineering. And then we also have reached out to therapeutic facilities and just individuals who have children with special needs, and have found people that are willing to and would like to take these toys.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that cool, right? Who knew, right, that you could be involved in engineering and also toys, right, and helping with these community service projects. So it's one of my favorite things that our students do here. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to do is engage our panelists again, okay? So I think I'll start with Johanna. We'll keep the same order. So what I'd like to ask our panelists is, what is the day in the life like for you, right? So when Johanna goes to work every day, right, what does that look like? Can we give the participants an idea what that might look like?
Sure. Yeah. So my average day can be very variable depending on the day. So for those of you who don't know, Oshkosh Corporation makes specialty heavy trucks. So they make different fire trucks, concrete mixers, and even military vehicles. So my job being on the S-Series platform, which is our concrete mixer, I work in a building directly behind, the building right behind me is actually the one where our truck gets assembled. So on an average day, more than likely I'll go out to the line and check on an issue. For example, right now we have a battery box that's not quite fitting up as we intended. So I've been out there a lot helping the operators figure out and troubleshoot that issue. When I'm not on the line, typically I'll be working on a design project or several different design projects in a day using our 3D modeling software. Oshkosh uses Creo, but other modeling softwares can be like SolidWorks. So I'll get to design different sheet metal parts within Creo and also put in different hardwares to different assemblies to make sure that we are calling out the right hardware and that change goes through all of our different systems. So we have our modeling system, and then we also have our production intent and system. So that keeps a track of all of our inventory. So whenever I put a design change through, I make all the changes to the models, the drawings, and then I write up a report. And then that goes through all the different departments, such as our purchasing and our production. And my manager checks it, as well as our head project manager looks over to make sure that we've covered all of our bases and that our design change is, we've done a good job, and that's a worthy design change to go through from production to the customer. when I'm not doing design work, typically I'll be interfacing with suppliers. So Oshkosh uses a lot of different suppliers for our parts. So any given part, usually that's not manufactured by Oshkosh. We assemble, but we don't manufacture. So I get to interface a lot with suppliers to figure out different product specifications. If it's, you know, an electrical issue like a fuse sizing or different current draws that we need to know for that part, and or, you know, the HVAC system, hydraulics. So it's been really nice to be able to interface with suppliers and get that information directly with them. So lots of different communication is very important in my job. Let's see, design. On occasion, I'll go out to our test and development center if I'm running a test for a particular part. So I'll get to work with the test engineers that we have and get to work with them to specify a test plan for that part to make sure we're testing it as we expect it to run in the field. So that way our data reflects strongly about how we'll see that out in the field and how the customer will, how that will impact the customer.
Johanna, I love how you talked about the application of everything that you're learning, right? And that's really what engineering is. It's applying your communication skills, your math skills, your engineering skills, right? Your organizational skills, all the things, right, that you learned by being on the track team. I think you did a good job of illustrating how important that is, right, in the workplace. So thank you.
Tammy, can I interrupt for a moment?
Of course, Nicole.
There are a couple questions that I just don't have the answers to. I'm hoping you guys
Well,
have
why not?
specific
Go ahead.
information. So for mechanical engineering, someone's asking, how often do students finish in 5 years as opposed to 4?
Yeah, so how I'll answer that is this. It's really dependent on you, okay? So a large number of our students will go 4.5 or 5. In Johanna's case, she's an athlete, right? And probably when she was in season, she probably took a little bit lighter credit load maybe, so that, right, so that she'd have time for those, what are they, 3-hour practices?
It can get pretty long some days.
Yeah,
but not
right.
too bad.
Yeah. I can tell you this, if students want to graduate in 4 years, there's certainly that option for you. However, if you're like Johanna and you want to be involved in athletics or something else, right, you want to save time in your schedule, it will be 4.5 or 5. And sometimes students will take a co-op or they take a semester and a summer off and work. Right, they'll work with a company, and a lot of companies recruit students, right, Dr. Penn? They recruit students from co-ops and internships for full-time job offers. So that extra semester, right? So if you make the average salary for a co-op, which is just over $17 an hour, over a 7-month time, let's call it, you'll earn $20,000 gross, and so you'll easily make up what you need for that extra semesters of tuition. Plus, you're going to be at the top of the list, right? When employers are looking for people with experience, right? Mike, do you want to add anything to that? About 4 to 5 years, right? What that looks like for students?
Yeah, I think the other thing comes into play. A lot of students are paying a substantial portion of their expenses, so some have to work and some have to work quite a few hours in a week, and that certainly can come to bear, you know, on how many credits you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've had lots of cases of students that are trying to work too much and take too many classes, and that doesn't, for some it can work, but for some it can't. But we work it out. But it's that, and the other thing is, where do you start in the math sequence? Those are right. It's where you start in math. How many credits you want to take a semester? How many credits you can take a semester, and whether or not you do a co-op.
Great points. Yeah. Great points. Thanks for bailing me out there, Mike.
Tammy, one more question. Someone asked about jobs within the engineering field, or where they can get practice. Like, I know some of the jobs they can get on campus, they can work in the center point and things like that, but I thought you guys might know a couple more.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So the College of EMS hires anywhere from 300 to 400 students in our college each year. And you could be doing undergraduate research with Dr. Penn and get paid for that, right? And I'll have him talk about that in a second. Or you can work and support the hundreds of computers that we have on campus. And Alec, right, he's one of our tour guides. And when the dean or one of the chairs says CEO of X and so company is on campus, do you know any students, right, that would do a good job representing UW-Platteville? Alec is definitely the person I'm going to contact, right? So there's definitely lots of great job opportunities in College of EMS. So Mike, do you want to talk about undergraduate research just a little bit?
Sure. So, the hallmark of Platteville is the focus on undergraduate education. So, and this is also the answer to my question of what my day is, right? The vast majority of my day is teaching, preparing for class, fielding questions, sometimes nonstop. And the rest of the time is either potentially working on research projects or working on service projects. I just had a seminar last night. It was pretty awesome. More than 100 people showed up. I was one of the contributors. The American Society of Civil Engineers did an evaluation, a statewide evaluation of the infrastructure in Wisconsin. And so we were reporting the results of that. So, but faculty do varying levels of research here. Some are more involved than others, but we're not involved at the level that you see at a typical, what we call R1 or a big research school, where the focus is primarily on graduate students and less on undergraduates. But we do have research projects, and they can range from a student comes in and says, I'm really interested in this thing. Can you help me? You know, you can do like an independent study or independent research, or all the way up to, well, no, a mid-level thing would be you could apply for a research scholarship through the funded by the university or the college, and then you could get some money to do a project that way. And all the way up to, in the extreme, it was a few years back, but I was involved in a $750,000 research project with UW-Madison. And so I had 3 or 4 students working full-time for me in the summers and part-time during the school year. So it runs the gamut. I mean, there's opportunities there. Right?
For sure, yeah. And then the other thing, undergraduate research, right? So one of Dr. Lerner, who's one of our professors, talks about how a student, one of her colleagues is working with a student. They went to this conference, right, to present the answer to this question that no one has ever answered before. And everyone is looking around to find the answer to the question. And everyone looks at the student and says, well, what do you think, right? Because they're kind of the expert in that area because that's what they have been studying. So that's a pretty good example of the impact, right? The hands-on piece, okay? Mike, is there anything else you want to add to what your day is like?
Really long, especially the spring semester.
Yeah. Would you rather be in the classroom in your orange jumpsuit or grading exams and going to committee meetings?
I would teach 60 hours a week if I could.
Yes.
If I didn't have to do anything else. But unfortunately, I'm working 60 hours a week and I'm only teaching 10.
Well, yeah. He's preparing, right? You're preparing too, right? That takes time. So, okay, thank you. Alec, what is a day like for you?
Well, typically I spend, I'd say 5-ish hours in class, whether that's looking at recorded materials for some of my asynchronous virtual classes this semester, or in Zoom lectures or things like that. And then outside of that, I'm also working on lots of coursework. I'm taking 18 credits, which is the limit for our flat tuition rate. So with that, that's a pretty big time commitment. You should expect to take about 3 hours throughout your week per credit, if that makes sense. So if you're taking 15 credits, you would expect to spend 45 hours a week on class-related things, whether that's reading the book ahead of time, attending lectures, working on homework, studying for exams. Any of that stuff would kind of be included in that. So that's kind of a little bit about the time commitment. But outside of my coursework, I am involved in a few extracurriculars, like I mentioned earlier. So one of the big things I do is I work on our Formula SAE vehicle. The Society of Automotive Engineers hosts a few international competitions where students design, manufacture, and then compete with not miniature, but smaller scale vehicles. So I spend a lot of time down in our student machine shops working on that throughout the week as well.
Good, thank you. I see Emily had a question, let's see, about changing majors and taking classes from other fields. I think I would say that this is one of the places where UW-Platteville excels, is that if for whatever reason, you decide engineering isn't quite what you think, or you discover reclamation or something like that, we have over 130 combinations of STEM degrees, minors, and emphasis areas on the campus. And so there's plenty of opportunity to make those switches fairly easily, right? And my area, our student success programs, which is, we hope for you, a differentiating factor. When you make your college choice, we support students through that, as do our faculty, right? So I'm sure Dr. Penn would rather keep you in civil or environmental engineering, right? Because like you said, he enjoys hanging out, right, with students and becomes great friends with them. However, our biggest point is really to help you find the career that works for you, right? I get a kick out of making sure people enjoy their careers, right? And they're choosing a major that works for them. And so we have connections all across campus to help people with that if they need that. Does that help, Emily? I saw your question floating in there. Okay, thanks.
Can I chime in?
Of course you can.
Without dragging it out too much. Another key is within the engineering disciplines, largely the first 2 years are quite similar. Not exactly, but I get every semester, I get, students coming from mechanical engineering into electric or into environmental, and I may have an environmental that decides they want to go to electrical. That doesn't happen quite as much as vice versa, but you've got some time because there's a lot of overlap. The engineering fundamentals are the engineering fundamentals. So it's not one-to-one, but it's not like you have to start over at ground zero when you change your mind, right?
Yeah, good, thank you, that's great. I want to show you a couple of things back in my PowerPoint. Aren't you impressed with all my moving back and forth? We have a concrete canoe. Yes, it floats. And we do have a
Hey, that
rocket.
was me.
Oh, wait, was that you, Mike?
Yeah. Oh, never mind.
Oh, shoot, I can't get to it. I'm sorry.
I go to those things. They're awesome competitions.
Yeah. Anyway, this is some of our students working on campus. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is Sesquicentennial Hall, right? So over here on the right side is my mouse. Can you see my mouse? This is where Busby Hall of Engineering actually exists. We're remodeling the entrance here. You can kind of see those really beautiful, tall, single, slim windows. And over here is Sesquicentennial Hall. We're super excited. There's all kinds of really great things being built in this space, including a 20,000 square foot innovation or maker space, if you want to call it that, with all kinds of new equipment. A green roof, which Dr. Penn is probably super excited about. So this is actually just SQH itself, if you can't like sesquicentennial is a lot to say, right? There's the green roof. It's going to be accessible. Hey, Dr. Penn, do you have any plans for the green roof in your curriculum, or have you not thought that far yet?
Well, the goal is to make this building as interactive as possible, meaning trying to actually have, monitoring measurements and that types of things. So if we're lucky enough that all that pulls through, then certainly.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean if we're lucky enough?
Well, I don't trust anything till I see it.
Yeah. Spoken like an engineer, right?
Yeah, talk is talk, touch is touch.
Yeah, it will be. What is the phrase we're calling? Learning as a tool, the building as a tool. I can't remember the phrase we're using, Mike.
Well, I don't remember either.
Yeah, okay, something like that.
But anyway, this is a brand new building.
Mhm.
It's a brand new building to pull all engineering together. Because right now I'm in a beat up old decrepit building from the 60s still,
Yeah.
but not for long.
Yeah. So there's some pictures for you just to see what the space, and this is one of my favorite things to show you. This is where Mike's going to be hanging out, right? With all his students, his office is probably going to be here. And we have all these intentional spaces here so that there's all this really great engagement with faculty. So, and I don't know if you heard recently, we have a new solar array. Mike, you probably know more about it than I do.
It's big.
Yeah.
It's big. It's big and it's finally approved. I believe it's the largest state-owned solar array, and not just UW system, like any state, anything. It's multiple megawatts, as I recall, and it's going to be a substantial fraction of the power requirements at university.
Yeah, so Jack, the new hall will open in fall 2022. So yeah, so soon. Okay. We think that's soon, right? And by the way, for those of you who are seniors, we are planning for full instruction face-to-face in the fall with the option to pivot, right? Whereas before we were planning for online with the option to go live. So we're super excited. I'm super excited about that. I'm sure Dr. Penn is too. So okay, let's see. Nicole had to go to a different meeting. What I want to do now is, do you want to see the crispiness project? This is a senior design project in mechanical engineering. So I'm going to pull that up. I think this is just the coolest thing. Okay, make sure I get the right one here. You know me, I got to do all this findangling. So hang in there with me.
While you're pulling that up, Tammy, for those of you that don't know what a senior design project is, for all the engineering majors on UW-Platteville's campus, each senior takes part in what's called it's basically a capstone project where you get to pull together all the knowledge that you've accumulated over your 4 or 5 years and put it into a project. So each department does it a little bit differently, but typically you're in a team of other students in your major. My senior design had 3 other team members and myself, and we got to work with some are company sponsored and others are sponsored by sometimes the university or private sponsors, and you get to work and design a project to solve a problem, which is super cool. I got to design a children's playground telescope, so that was really fun, and this is a great fun project as well.
Oh, thanks, Johanna, for covering that space for me while I was getting ready. All right, so someone just give me a thumbs up or something to let me know that you can hear and see, okay?
The Spectrum Brands Crispiness Project is basically defining and quantifying different levels of crispiness when it comes to foods coming out of an air fryer or a toaster oven. We can quantify crispiness by either taking force data, by squishing different foods, or by taking sound data by that crunching sound that you hear when you crunch into a fry. For this project, we developed a few different probes that we'll be using. One of them is a single probe. The second one is a multi-probe where we're using several different probes pressing into the French fry. And the third is a bite fixture where it basically mimics human teeth biting into a French fry. Working with Spectrum Brands has been really great. We've been able to speak with them at least once a week when it comes to our different questions that we might have, as well as getting test specimen. We've been testing a lot of different French fries, and they've been able to provide all of this material for us. One big thing that I've learned on this project is what a test engineer does. I've had a lot of experience with design and manufacturing engineering, but it's really great to be able to see this side of engineering.
In this project, I've learned the importance of proper test setup. So going through all the details prior to starting any testing so that all of your variables are accounted for when you go into the project.
The major thing I learned throughout this project was machining experience. I utilized the design to create 4 probes and machine those things down to tolerances. The main thing is to see how you can design a probe and how it can be machined for an applicable purpose.
One thing that I've learned in this project is I've gotten to really expand my knowledge on stats and validating data. I've gotten to run gauge R&R, t-tests and things like that to help explore our data further and make sure that it is meeting what we're trying to measure.
The spectrum.
Okay, so I just love this video because this is not necessarily what people think about when you think about engineering, right? Right? Who would have thought that an engineer would be testing the crispiness of the food that you eat, right? And I think what this video does too is does a good job sort of explaining that engineering really applies to all of our life, right? There's different aspects, and I'm sure Dr. Penn could go on about, you know, when you flush the toilet, right? It needs to be cleaned up somewhere, and engineering has this really awesome impact on our society and things that you'd never thought of before, right? Like building a fixture to test crispiness, right? I think those are really exciting things to share with you. Dr. Penn, anything to add to that?
No.
No? Okay.
Engineering is everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Somebody once said to me, everything should have been designed.
Should have been.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything you see, everything you touch should have been designed.
Mm-hmm. I think what's fun too about engineering is your skills can go across several business industries. So for example, Johanna, right, she's working on vehicles and things related to that, and probably a very specific thing, right, related to the vehicles that she's working on. But if she wants to, not that she's willing, not that she's applying for a job, but if she wants to go to Kimberly-Clark and work at a company that produces napkins, right, and paper towels and Kotex and all these different things, right, like she has the skills to do that, right? So I think that's one of the really fun things about engineering degrees is they're very the skills are very transferable to different industries. Okay. And now someone had a question about internships. Johanna, you feel like the perfect person to answer this question. What is the availability of internships for ME students, and where would some internships be?
Sure. I would say the availability is very high. UW-Platteville hosts a career fair both in the spring and the fall that a lot of companies attend, and that there's they'd like to hire UW-Platteville graduate or students and graduates when you're looking for full-time positions, because we have that really hands-on approach to our engineering education. We don't just learn the formulas, the math, different things to calculate. We actually get to apply them and really get to learn that design process hands-on in the classroom, which they're looking for when you go to that. So yeah, if you don't find something at the career fair, a lot of companies post different internships on their websites. You can definitely find it that way. I know SWE has different career fairs. There's lots of different organizations that host career opportunities for internships to be available. And as to where they'll be, just about anywhere you can think of. I've interned at Caterpillar down in Peoria. I did an internship up in a small town in northern Wisconsin, Clear Lake, 1,000 people. Now I'm in Oshkosh, which is, you know, mid-size, not super huge, but not super small either. So there's opportunities just about anywhere you can look. So if you want to go out west and be an engineer out west, go for it. There's definitely opportunities there. Or if you want to stay in Wisconsin, Midwest, plenty here too.
Yeah, that's perfect answer, Johanna. Really, Max, you tell me where you want to work and we'll figure it out, right? When we're in person, we had 700 companies in a year's time, right? Come to campus to recruit either for internship, co-op, or full-time. So we produce some of the largest number of engineers, right, in the state of Wisconsin. Not that you're product, but you earned, right? We all give degrees. We give degrees to a lot of engineers in the state of Wisconsin annually. So literally the Platteville engineers are everywhere. Okay. How about, is there any
I
more?
want to make a plug if I may.
Oh, go.
I feel
Go.
compelled. Sorry. I completely agree that the opportunities are everywhere, but I do think it's important to note that the harder you work, the higher the probability things are going to go well for you.
Mhm.
Right? So the more you get engaged, the more different kinds of things you do, the more groups you're in, the more community service you do, the better your grades are. Those are the first people they want to hire, assuming that those people can communicate and work well with others. But if you're just sort of lollygagging along going, yeah, I shouldn't say lollygagging, but if you're just here just to fill up a seat, you might still get one, but the opportunities will not be nearly as great.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, Dr. Penn, because high school and college are different, right? And one of the differentiating factors is our student success programs, where if you don't understand what you need to do, right, to be successful as a college student, right, I'm going to send you to Dr. Penn, and he's gonna give you a talking to about, hey, this is what you need to do, right? This is how you bring your game, right? And it's one thing to work hard, right? But it's also to work smart, right? So copying your notes over 3 or 4 times is not necessarily going to be a great way to learn, right? And so maybe no one's ever taught you, right? Those sorts of things. And so I partner a lot with our faculty to help you figure out what it is that you need to be a successful as a college student. And so we provide that pathway, right? For you to be successful. And I can guarantee you what you did in high school probably won't work in college. Okay. You really are going to have to make some adjustments. I've literally mentored thousands of students. I'm sure Dr. Penn has too, and supported them. And I think to a person, almost every single one of them will say what they had to do in high school is different what they needed to do in college. Do we still have Alec here? Or did he have to go? He might have had to go. No, he's here. Is that true of you, Alec? Did I just lie?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty true.
Okay.
Yeah, both. I mean, things that Dr. Penn said and things that Tammy have said are really true. Outside the classroom, if you're applying yourself in organizations or through research, that'll help you get a good leg up. Especially if you're doing that while also maintaining your grades and things. And then we have a lot of programs on campus that are there to help as long as you kind of initiate that conversation and reach out when you know that things aren't going as well as they could.
Thank you, Alec. This group is amazing. You all are coming up with some amazing questions. Like if I had candy, I'd be giving it to you right now if we were in person. So first question is, when is the next Chancellor Scholarship opportunity? That will be not for fall 2021 seniors, but it'll be for it will be for freshmen coming to Platteville in fall 2022. Okay. So, and that opportunity like that happens quickly. I think the deadline, what'd you say, is December, Alec? Late December?
Yeah, it opens, I want to say, in October, around October 1st, and it closes December 31st.
Okay, good. Thanks, Alec. And then, Will, you asked about the amount of time that you should spend on schoolwork and how that compares to other engineering schools. You know what I'll say about this, and maybe Dr. Penn will add some comments to this. We all are accredited, accredited engineering schools are all accredited from the same organization, the ABET, the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology. And we all have to have a certain number of outcomes, right, that we meet for every student who graduates from our institutions, okay? One of the things I will say about us is we are very heavy on laboratories, right? Probably more so than others, okay? So those time frames that Alec was giving earlier about the amount of time you spend in class and in labs. So for example, if you have a 3-credit class and you're in lecture 2 hours a week, and maybe you have 2 hours of laboratory associated with it, or maybe 3 or some combination, you might actually be getting 5 hours of instruction. We're actually expecting you to spend 2 to 3 hours times that, right, studying and doing homework. So and that's not true for every class, but generally speaking, that's what we think will work for you, right? Dr. Penn, anything you want to add to that? I mean, I think that's the secret to success, right? For a Platteville education.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's hard to I mean, I couldn't compare us to another school. I could say one thing across the board: any accredited engineering school, you have got to be prepared to work your tail off. And I'm not being like whatever, you know. Do you think you're going to get out and get paid $60,000 just because you know, sat around and watched Netflix every night? It's not. But engineers work as hard as anybody on this campus, and the faculty do that for a reason, because it has proven itself time and time again, right?
Yeah, and companies,
you work hard, we work hard, good results.
Yes. Yeah, and then that's when you get the job, right? That's why companies come to UW-Platteville, is because they know, number one, students have that strong work ethic, but number two, they know their stuff, right? Partly because of all the hands-on pieces that we do, and because of dedicated professors like Dr. Penn. So, Will, does that help?
Yeah, that does help a lot. Thanks.
Okay, good. All right. Is there anything else that we can help answer tonight? You all have been doing a fabulous job with questions. Super impressed with you.
I'm gonna hedge on my own previous bet. I might say that there's a possibility that you spend even more time here. In the upper level, senior level classes, most of those classes are project based. So it's not just like you're doing a homework assignment, you know, once a week kind of thing. They're big projects, and it's a tremendous amount of work. But again, it's the work that you're going to be doing, and it's the reason you get the job. Because you go to an interview and they say, "Do you not do this?" And you go, "Yeah, look, did a project just like that already." And they go, "Oh, awesome! That's what I expected from Platteville."
Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, I think I'm going to close this out. My email is in the chat, so if you have any follow-up questions, please go ahead and send those to me. Also, I want to encourage you, we are doing visits on campus safely, right? Alec is one of our tour guides, so if you want to come down and see Busby Hall of Engineering and our construction, we're happy to host you for that. Where you need to go to is our visit website, which I put in the chat as well. And then on top of that, you have to, if you have not seen our virtual tour, right, you should go see that. It's pretty cool. You can engage and you see all these videos and things like that. And you can find that on the visit pages as well. Okay. Thank you all. You all have been like seriously, you've been the most engaged of all the webinars I've hosted. So thank you so much for being attentive and for asking all these questions. Okay. All right. Talk to y'all soon. See you, right? See you soon in person, hopefully. Thank you, Dr. Penn. Thank you, Johanna.
You're welcome. Good luck, everybody, wherever you
Bye.
go. Work hard and have fun.
Thanks, Reese. Bye, Hans.